Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have a project to share with you today. We are growing mushrooms. This kit is from gardeners.com. It is a time-sensitive kit, so don't buy it until you are ready to grow your mushrooms. Now this kit comes with enough supplies to grow 2 crops of mushrooms and potentially 2 smaller crops as well. Now I'm taking everything out here to show you, but you actually want to keep it all in the box. We're going to remove that top bag first, and then we're going to start by scraping off the top part of the compost. Now it is white and that is normal, so go ahead and scrape it off about a 1/2 inch deep. You can use a fork to do this. Next, you want to take a 1/2 cup of that compost and you're going to mix it into the bag of casing. You want to make sure you get a full 1/2 cup. I've got my 8-year-old there helping me get that. I've got my 12-year-old helping me with this project as well. So we're going to put that into the bag of casing, and to that you want to add 5 cups of water. Then you want to let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to add that back on top of that compost. I'm just going to use a fork in order to spread it around until it's nice and even. Next, we want to let that casing sit on top of the compost for about 5 minutes, and then you can scratch the surface with a fork. The last thing I'm going to do is mark the date on the box, just so I can keep track of how these are growing. Now you want to keep this out of direct sunlight. Now the first day I did have it in direct sunlight by accident. Just want to move it away from the window. You still want bright light, but you do not want any direct sunlight. You also want to spray it daily with 2 ounces of water. And nothing's going to happen for a little while, but keep at it. Make sure that you keep it out of direct sunlight. Make sure there's still sun. Make sure it's warm enough, and make sure that you water it every day. And eventually, you will start to see some things happening. Now, 2 weeks later, we saw these little white button mushrooms start to poke their way through, and it was super exciting. There were quite a few of them. Now they are not ready to be picked at all. They're super tiny. You can see how big my thumb is compared to those little mushrooms, but we were finally glad to see something happening. Now, things are going to happen super fast as soon as you see them, and you can see that just 2 days later, they were already growing quite large, and 3 days later, it seems like they're already doubling in size. So just keep watering it, just keep observing it. Know that they are not mature at this point and you don't want to pick them just yet. Now there is some discoloring on some of them. That depends on the amount of light that they're getting. Now on March 15th, we decided to harvest them. That was 3 weeks later, but they probably could have gone another week to reach full maturity. Now I want to show you how the veil on the underside of this mushroom is just pulling away from the stem. And this means that it's okay, but it's not fully mature at this point. So you just need to twist them off in order to harvest them. And we are going to put that into a glass container because we are going to make something with these mushrooms a little bit later. All right, so this one isn't quite ready. You can see that that veil underneath isn't pulled away completely. And you can see how this one is pulled away quite a bit more, revealing those gills underneath which hold the spores. Now you want to make sure that you remove everything from the casing. You can see that that particular mushroom still had a little bit left inside. You want to remove all of that so that it doesn't rot, because you do want to get 2 full harvests out of this box. All right, so my daughter is going to continue picking as many as she can in this area. Now we opted to leave a few of them left behind since they weren't quite mature, but in general, once they are mature, you want to go ahead and harvest all of them. So you can see that in this case, just a few days later, those mushroom caps have really expanded, revealing all of those gills underneath. And that means that they are fully mature. If the mushroom cap starts to turn upside down, then it means they're over mature. All right, so it's time to cook these mushrooms. Now we probably should have done a better job getting the soil off of the mushrooms before we washed them, because all that soil got all over them. So we ended up having to wash them twice. But once they were all clean, we went ahead and we sliced them up, and we are going to saute these for our lunch. So I'm using a little bit of grapeseed oil, and we went ahead and we cooked all of them at one time, and it made quite a few. We are a family of 6 and we all got to enjoy these along with some steak and asparagus. There are those mushrooms. We also made some sauteed onions to go along with it, as well as a salad. All right, so a few days later, we are going to harvest this last batch. This is from our first harvest, but you can already see the second harvest coming through. The second harvest will come through about a week after the first harvest is fully mature. It will not take the full 3 weeks to get there. We also took some of these mushroom caps and made spore prints. This is a spore print left after several days, so it got quite dark. And then 4.5 weeks later, we harvested our second harvest of mushrooms, and these ones were quite mature by the time that we harvested them. You can see how large they are and how much the caps have opened up and how much of the gills you can see. I thought that these were over mature, but they weren't, and we went ahead and cleaned them up and set them aside. And I want to show you that they still released their spores. I thought at this point that they were completely done, but they released their spores, and we're going to be drying these because we don't have any immediate plans to use them. So we're going to go ahead and dry them and store them. All right, so I hope that you try this kit or any of the other kits for growing mushrooms because it was a lot of fun to do. It was really educational and super delicious. If you want to see some of the other projects that we have scheduled for our spring nature units, you can tap on the screen right now. If you want more information about this project as well as other projects that we have done, you can check the description box below for more information. And don't forget that if you want to see what we're up to on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.